Every 4 years, Americans reliably lock their eyes on Washington. We eagerly track the polls and debate the national policies, acting as though the occupant of this building controls every detail of our daily lives. But lawmakers on Capitol Hill don't patch the potholes on your street. They don't dispatch the fire trucks to your neighborhood. And they don't pick up your garbage on Tuesday mornings. The actual machinery of your daily routine is managed much closer to home. It relies on state and local executive branches, a massive workforce of governors, mayors, and bureaucratic staff carrying out laws on the ground. At the federal level, executive power flows top-down from the president to an appointed cabinet. State governments are structured differently, with power often shared across a wide horizontal range of offices: governors, lieutenant governors, attorneys general, and treasurers. No state allows its governor to handpick their entire executive team. They must negotiate with a mix of elected officials, appointed leaders, and career civil servants, all of whom hold significant legal and financial authority. To understand how your community actually functions, you have to look past the federal headlines and recognize the decentralized network of local leaders operating right outside your front door. The impact of this local network begins the second you wake up. Turning on your faucet immediately taps into services negotiated by local water districts, and the water draining away is processed by municipally managed sanitation plants. Even the view out your window is dictated by local zoning boards. They regulate how land and buildings are used, often keeping residential homes physically separated from industrial factories and high-traffic commercial stores. When you leave for work, you travel across an expensive infrastructure grid. Local governments spend millions of dollars every year to maintain the nation's 3 million miles of streets, roads, and bridges. When that maintenance is underfunded, the consequences are severe. Public attention is drawn to the fragility of these systems only after a catastrophe, like the 2007 collapse of this highway bridge in Minneapolis. To reduce the wear on these roads and cut down on pollution, local transit authorities build mass transit networks. Systems like San Francisco's Bay Area Rapid Transit are highly effective, though their massive construction costs frequently stall similar projects in other cities. Before you even arrive at work, your morning has relied on billions of dollars of locally managed physical infrastructure and land use policies. Protecting a community makes up the largest slice of most municipal budgets. Local police handle day-to-day patrols and emergency responses, while state police units are usually limited strictly to highway patrols. Similarly, fire protection scales locally, ranging from professional departments in large cities to volunteer crews in small towns. These local governments also control public education. The federal government provides only about 10% of school funding. The remaining 90% is supplied by state governments and local districts. This reliance on local funding creates a structural disparity. Since school budgets are tied to property taxes, wealthier districts generate significantly larger funding pools and better educational opportunities. This inequality forces state courts to intervene, balancing educational revenues across different zip codes. Beyond schools, state agencies provide the primary safety net for low-income residents. They administer federal funds for programs like Medicaid, operate public health clinics, and manage social services like temporary assistance for needy families. The day-to-day reality of your health, safety, and education is defined by the specific priorities and budgets set by your local leaders. Once you arrive at your job, state-level power is actively shaping the economy around you. States hold broad regulatory power over major corporations, imposing especially strict rules on privately owned public utilities that supply electricity, gas, and telephone service. State laws also dictate your rights as a worker. They regulate unemployment compensation and guarantee workers' compensation payments for anyone unable to work due to a job-related injury. Governors also act as economic developers. They frequently use short-term tax incentives and promotional campaigns to lure domestic and international businesses to their state in hopes of long-term job growth. State and local executives function as active economic participants, defining the terms of market competition and regional job creation. Because federal action is often slow, local and state branches have become the primary actors forced to combat complex modern crises. When extreme weather strikes, city leaders are the ones immediately confronted with failing infrastructure, like the devastating breach of levees along the Gulf Coast during Hurricane Katrina. In response, mayors are initiating aggressive climate policies. Boston is tracking municipal energy use and promoting residential composting, while Philadelphia has weatherized over 9,000 homes to better withstand severe weather. Some leaders have created specialized departments to tackle these issues directly, like the Office of Environment and Sustainability, established in Nashville, to coordinate electronics recycling and expand green spaces. Local governments are also on the front lines of the housing shortage. While some housing authorities fund urban renovation projects, cities like Detroit have been forced to tear down massive numbers of unsafe, unoccupied houses. These same local authorities must grapple with a history of housing discrimination. Even though the Federal Fair Housing Act outlawed discriminatory rental and sales practices in 1968, ensuring equal access today still depends on the enforcement efforts of state and local governments. Meaningful improvements to your environment, your economy, and your daily routine rely on the constant work of your local executive branches.